Hey everybody, welcome back to Winnemac Hockey. In today's video, we are going to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets and more specifically about Laine and Gaudreau, what this team looks like right now, and where it's headed. Stay tuned and we'll get into it. All right, Jake. So the Columbus Blue Jackets have been making a couple of moves this free agency that honestly have been either big signings or pretty significant trades. So let's start by breaking down the Laine signing because that's big for this team after bringing in Gaudreau. What do you think the Laine signing does for this team right now, and how is he going to earn that $8.7 million that he's making?
So the thing about Columbus is, for whatever reason, their players a lot of times don't like to stay. So if we look back at players like Artemi Panarin, Matt Duchene, Sergei Bobrovsky, and Ryan Dzingel, that offseason a few years back was terrible for them. For whatever reason, it's hard for them to re-sign people. So I think a lot of the fans are thankful that Laine came back. He is a good piece on that team. But $8.7 million for 4 years, I don't think is the ideal contract. I think that he could be worth that money, but if you're going to give him that top tier contract, get the term you want. The man is 24. That means he's going to be a free agent at 28, the exact same age as Johnny Gaudreau. And you don't have to look very far to see if someone's a free agent in the prime of their career at 28, you could lose them very easily. They know that now. So I think you also have to look at the comparable being Pierre-Luc Dubois, who he was traded for. They went second and third overall in the draft. Their careers are intertwining. They happen to sign contracts on the exact same day. Dubois, a center, signed for $6 million. It is only for 1 year, so he's going to lose some of that money because he didn't sign longer term, but he's a center. Centers typically get more money, and in this case, he didn't. So I think the Blue Jackets had to overpay a little bit, but they got a very, very good player in Patrik Laine.
Absolutely, and they brought in Johnny Gaudreau, which automatically takes your team up to the next level.
Yeah, a great passer. Patrik Laine scoring 30 or 40 without an elite passer on his team, so I think he could hit 50.
50 goals. Hey, we're calling it right now. I agree with you 100%. He's going to put up 50 this year. All right, so Laine, they re-signed him. They brought in Johnny Hockey, and then they signed a defenseman in Goodbranson. Jake, what do you think of that when he's making $4 million per year? And it looks like, according to Daily Faceoff, he might be a third pair defender.
Yeah, so I think looking at their roster, they need the defensive help. I don't know if Goodbranson's the right guy for the job. Again, it's hard to get people into Columbus. So maybe they're looking at their options here. They say, we know we need to get somebody in here. Our options are thin. Goodbranson's willing to come in, so they have to give him, again, a little more money because it's Columbus, but he's going to fill a slot in their top six. And he is an NHL defender. It's just a lot of money.
Yeah, and, you know, as we look at the defense, that seems to be the weakest part of the team right now. They look pretty thin, so maybe they thought the overpay for right now was what they needed to do just to get some help there. But also, we need to talk about the Strand trade as well. They got a third and a fourth in return. Do you think that they got the return that they should have here? I know they're trying to free up some cap space because they're just a little bit over the ceiling right now.
Yeah, I think that they're going to miss him. I think Blue Jackets fans are going to miss him. He was great for them. And the sucky thing here is the Blue Jackets, from what I've seen, are a great fan base. I don't know why players don't want to stay. Strand's been there a long time. I think he's a guy that might have been willing to stay, but at his north of $5 million cap hit, it just doesn't work out sometimes. So I think Seattle is going to love him. Fun fact, Strand is the only player on Seattle right now that they acquired via trade. Every other player was either acquired in the expansion draft or signed in free agency. So compare that to the other expansion team, Vegas, who trades for whoever they desire on that particular day. Seattle's taking a different approach.
Yeah, and so with that move, let's kind of take a look at where their team sits and the direction that they're heading. So the question here that a lot of fans are thinking and maybe looking forward to is, are they a playoff team potentially this season? What are your thoughts on that one?
So I take a look at this team, and the big hole is down the middle. I look at their centers, and according to Daily Faceoff right now, their top line center is Jack Roslovic. I like Jack Roslovic. He isn't terrible. Like, he can put up points, but is he a top line center? No, at least not yet. He hasn't proven that he can be. And I think that's the one downside to their top line right now with Johnny Gaudreau and Patrik Laine. You look at Roslovic, he is playing for his hometown team with 2 all-stars on either side of him. He's got to be loving life. But their other center options are like Boone Jenner, Sean Corrali. Like, that, it's not looking great down the middle. If they could go get a number 1 center, somehow work it out with the cap, however you got to do it, I think that would really step this team up to where they could be competing for the playoffs.
Yeah, so looking at the cap situation, Nyquist is going to be playing his last year on his contract. Voracek has 2 years left on his contract, and he's making over $8 million a year. Are those guys that could potentially be moved to free up some of that cap to help move forward? I know some fans may not like hearing that Nyquist could be in that position. But Jake, what are your thoughts on those 2 players?
I think Nyquist likes being in Columbus. His contract's only 5.5 mil. So he's not too steep, but is he worth 5.5? I don't know if he's quite worth that much. Again, you have the Columbus thing, you got to pay him a little more. They did get him in free agency that year that all of their other free agents left. So he kind of got that little bonus for coming in. But the guy that I'm looking at to really free up space is Jake Voracek. He's making $8.25 million. He's still a very, very good player. I don't understand why you got rid of Cam Atkinson, who still doesn't fill that center problem because he's a winger. But I think that he was a guy that really liked being in Columbus. He had said in interviews that he loves being in Columbus. He wanted to retire as a Blue Jacket. But, of course, he gets traded to Philly, and then he kind of flips the script and says, I love being in Philly. If there's any team I wanted to go to, it's Philly. So Cam Atkins kind of that like Homer Simpson meme where he like slides back to the bushes as a Blue Jacket and then he comes back out as a Flyer. But I think that he was great for Columbus. I think the fans loved him. That's the one move that I don't understand. Blue Jackets fans, if you're watching, let me know why. Why is there any benefit to making that swap?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even a Blue Jackets fan, but I loved Cam Atkinson. I considered getting his jersey until I heard the rumors that he could be moved. And I was like, well, that probably isn't the best decision to make right now. But yeah, I love the guy in Philly. But another question I have for you here is, if they're able to move Voracek and potentially free up some cap, they can go out and get one big piece or maybe 2 significant pieces. But something that needs to be discussed here is their drafting, their prospects. They've got plenty in the system, and I know that there's one guy in particular that you really like. So why don't you talk about him for a little bit?
Yeah, so let's just go over some of their recent draft picks. I think you have somebody like Liam Foudy was 3 or 4 years ago. He didn't really pan out. He was a center. He can't even get consistent time in the NHL. He's not playing very well in the AHL. I'm not looking very fondly at him, which, you know, Blue Jackets fans, you've watched him a lot more than I have. If you see something that I'm missing, maybe he's this gem, but I don't see it. Not necessarily the worst news, though, because they've done very well drafting lately. Starting in 2020, they got, I'm going to butcher his name, but like Igor Chinakov he was 21st overall. He's a right winger. He's already getting time with the team, and he looks really good. 2021, so last year's draft, they addressed that center problem that I talked about. They got Cole Sillinger, who put up around 30 points this year. He's only 19, so that's really good. He was 12th overall. The 2021 5th overall pick, so the same year as Sillinger, was Kent Johnson. This is a guy that I'm excited about. I've heard really good things about him. He is a center, so I see this guy as being that number 1 center. But the problem with that is you got Laine for 4 years. Like I said earlier, I think that takes until he's 28. Add another 2 years to that, get him till he's 30. You've got more time for Johnson to develop into that number 1 center. So they're going to have to play around with that a little bit. But when he's ready, Blue Jackets fans are going to enjoy him. But recently, we we talked about in this video already, the defense is not good. In this most recent draft, they had the 6th overall pick and the 12th overall pick. They drafted defenders at both those spots. I'll try to say their name. They're one guy's actually from Canada, but his name is a mess. So it's David Voracek, and the Canadian guy is Denton Matechuk. So 2 defenders drafted relatively high. So they obviously see something there. These are 2 guys you could see playing very soon because their defense isn't full.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely room for them to play with in that regard. And, you know, that the fact that they have 2 centers that could potentially come up and take that first spot, that second spot, that third spot, that's really good news for Blue Jackets fans. So even though this year you're probably not going to make the playoffs, especially in an Eastern Conference that's just crazy right now, within the next 2 to 3 years, I mean, you guys are going to be fighting really hard to get back into the playoffs. And you have Johnny Hockey, which automatically takes you a step up. So this team definitely moving in the right direction. Their future looks really bright. And one more thing I definitely want to hit on here is something that I think Columbus just doesn't get enough credit for, and that's their goaltending. I hear a lot of fans in the league not say great things about their goaltending, but I think that Merz Lincoln's is solid. Last year he had a .907 save percentage on a team that gave up a lot of shots. So Jake, what do you think of their goaltending? Do they need to address that, or ultimately do they have their guy?
So I think we look at their goaltending, and Merzlikins and Korpisalo have kind of had 2 different directions. Korpisalo was the starter. He's the guy that they played when they upset Tampa a few years ago. He had that one game where he made like 60 saves? It was something crazy. He had a lot of saves, and he's kind of gone downward, where last season he had a .877 save percentage and a 4.15 goals against, which is a lot. So the other guy, Merzlikins, playing on the same team, had a 3.22 goals against, but a .907 save percentage. So they're giving up a lot of shots, and he's saving a lot of shots. So he's not going to be leading the NHL in save percentage, but for the team that he was on last year, he put up great numbers. And he has a motivator that no other goalie in the league has. He is still playing for Mattis Kivlenieks, and I have no doubt that he'll be doing that for the rest of his career. And I think did he change his number to support him? He's just got such a great motivator there. It's tragic what happened, but Merzlikins is doing everything he can to dedicate his career to Kivlenieks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jake, we've talked about the major re-signing with Laine. We talked about Gaudreau. We talked about the prospects that are going to make this team something special in the next few years. So before we wrap up the video, I want to ask you, when do you think Columbus will return to the playoffs?
I think it's as early as 2 years from now. When you get rid of that Voracek contract, you've got $8 million to spend on a new center. One guy that I was just thinking about as we're filming this is, because I'm trying to run through my head, who would be a good fit for this team? Who's going to be a free agent? If you could move the Voracek contract at some point this year, they are cap strapped. Getting $8 million off the books would really be a weight off your chest. If they could do that, one of the bigger free agents I'm looking at next year is Ryan O'Reilly. So that's a guy I've gotten to see a lot. His favorite line mate was David Perron. He just said, "See ya, St. Louis, I'm going to Detroit." He's no longer on the Blues. So Ryan O'Reilly, knowing that his favorite line mate's gone, he's heading into free agency. I don't know that the Blues can bring him back because they haven't done anything to deserve him coming back. But if he's in free agency, you've got a defensive center that can play with 2 elite offensive wingers. That would be probably the nastiest line in hockey.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that. It would be such a blow to the Blues with just kind of seeing their team slowly lose all those pieces that brought them a Stanley Cup. But man, if Columbus could make that happen,
and he costs around $8 million, so the pieces fit.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, for those of you that are still watching, especially the Columbus fans, let us know what you think of Laine's contract. Do you like it? Do you agree with Jake here that you should have gotten more term? How do you feel about your prospects, your defense? I mean, everything. Just let us know what you guys think of your team this year, how excited you are, because honestly, we're excited for you. We're excited to watch this Columbus team really put the pieces together, something that they had and lost all in one offseason a few years ago. So thank you guys for tuning into this video, and we'll see you next time on Winamac Hockey.